You're alive. You're alive. I wish I had a meter for my sound to see if my sound is okay. Am I okay? Yes, I hope I am okay. Hello, Joe Buddy. Hey, how's my sound, Joe Buddy? It's kind of difficult to set up these just going on live things. And hello, Bob the Monk. How are you today? Today, I think we're going to talk a little bit about feminist epistemology, feminist and uh, feminist and science, feminism, and because that's where the argument started. I think most of the argument started in the science of philosophy when that back in the '60s, the science of philosophy, and feminists wanted to be include their epistemology in philosophy. You are fine. I hope I'm fine. I've been having this thing where my back camera picks up the sound, and it just doesn't sound like the when I use the Yeti. Can you hear that? Because it should be a doo, 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 doo. It's fine. Go. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I've been taking a break, a summer break. I busted my knee, so it's hard to get around and it's hard to sit for a long period of time here and everything. I didn't break it. I tore it. so so I just gotta wait. As an older person, you gotta wait for things to heal, and it bothers me, and I get. If I'm doing it, hello, financial freedom. Hello, special ed Andrew. Hello, everybody that's going to show up. I never know who's going to show up. It's so on the spot now. It's just I just do these things now and talk about whatever I want to talk about, I guess, and that's about it. And it's just stopping by to say hello and hope MGTOW's working out for everybody. And had a beautiful day today. I've been riding my bike. Riding my bike, my new electric bike. It's such a blast. I was going to do the Victor von Frankenstein. Hello, it is I, Traversable MGTOW. I thought that would be funny. It is I. I like that. But that would be stealing your intro, Victor. I don't want to steal your intro. And so I was out riding my bike, thinking. I was trying to fix my moped today. I have a 50cc moped that I want to sell and put it into my account so I can buy a new machine for my garage. Man tools. I know man tools. Man tools are important. We all have man tools, our tool, no big tools, so woodworking tools and stuff. Even though you only use them once in a while, when you do use them, it's a blast. It's just I want to buy a CNC router, and they're about $4,000. So we'll see how that goes. But feminist epistemology. Kuhn talked about feminist epistemology, and Godfrey talked about feminist epistemology, and I think that's where the problem starts. We see the guys like. We see the problem come in with guys like remember that guy, he put the satellite on an asteroid. He landed the satellite on the asteroid, and he was wearing a shirt of a female. It was a Hawaiian shirt, I suppose, and he was wearing the Hawaiian shirt. And this guy just got done putting a satellite on an asteroid, and the only thing they could say is their critique of his science, their scientific epistemology. Their philosophy says that if he's wearing a shirt of a female figure on it, it was sexism, and there was something wrong with that. And that's feminist epistemology. It goes from radical feminism, which is transgender feminism, and it goes from the light end of cumulative talks and stuff like that. The wording we use, but I found one thing was true with the practice of feminist epistemology and the struggles that we go through with this modernism going to postmodern, and that's what's happening. Modernism is going to postmodern, and the culprit. I find it hard to believe that postmodernism is the culprit in this thing. And what it is you got this segment of of people that are arguing for sort of anti-modernism. They want to stay in the traditional. They want to stay traditionally in the traditional, which is the old modernism. Old modernism would be times from Nietzsche and anything up to about the 20s, even pragmaticism, American pragmatism, and that stuff is sort of modernism. James and Wright and all those guys is modernism. We talk about postmodernism. We talk about Rawls, social justice. We talk about Kuhn, and we talk about the philosophy of science. We talk about how we argue these things out in the philosophy of science, and that's where feminists want to introduce their special brand of feminism and their special brand of epistemology. And I have a problem with it because we have an argument that says that there's an anti-modernism in there, and it's a traditional stance on, and it's more like they take their ideas from more of relativism, and it positions itself in a criticism. When you do these arguments if I was going to introduce an idea about how the sun orbits or the Earth's orbit around the sun, and I believe that the larger planets pull the sun slightly over, and then it works back, and then so it's more of a wobbling action as we go around in the planets, because we have bigger planets and smaller planets, and gravity, it pulls and it wobbles. And I came up with a formula for that. The critique would the scientific community's job is to critique it, to find all the flaws in that idea. That's their job. That's what's expected. You yourself are supposed to try to find all your flaws in your ideology, and that's what's called scientific philosophy. Science and philosophy go together. Philosophy helps science figure out all the flaws in their work, and you have many people that will critique an idea. And there's a ways that Kuhn said you're supposed to go about this. But when feminist ideology came in, I realized that it was not a sophisticated argument to complex problems, like the mathematics that it would take to figure out if the sun was wobbling a little bit. That would be so important to our farm cycles and stuff like that. If we knew which seasons would be hot seasons, and we knew which seasons would be cool seasons, and we knew when it was going to rain more, it would tell us a lot. The position that feminists do is a position, it's what all women do. It's a position of criticism. They really don't know the difference between a stoic argument and what we call a sophist argument. A sophist argument is when you make up a critique to your argument to argue with your argument, then you destroy that critique of the argument. Feminism comes in and they say we had a lot of these different a lot of different people. We come in and commensability has a lot to do with the language we use in science. We use science like when feminism came in, they started talking about intersectionality, and intersectionality in them means something totally different than it means for scientists. You can have science and biology, science that kind of merge together, and that's intersectionality. Their intersectionality would tend to flow to the radical feminism side of intersectionality, where it's gender differences and primal studies of apes and primate studies, and that was Godfrey's argument for females do pretty good with primate studies, primatology, and that was their argument through primatology, like Jane Goodall. She has an empathy with an empathetic attitude with the gorillas, and she generally does better when they're working with primates. Females do better when working with primates, and there's a sort of intuition. What they call intuition and what we call intuition are two different things. It's said that females have this subtle intuition. They know what's going on behind their back, and that really is not true and stuff. It's just It's just simping, as I see it, and that's what happens in the scientific community. We had Sokol that came in, and he did Sokol's hoax, which I got told you guys to look up last time I was talking. Sokol's hoax was he introduced a totally fabricated argument and an idea, argument, and everything, and he used all the terminology from that feminists would like to hear. So just using the terminology that, and he made a ridiculous argument, and then they started printing it. And they said, oh, well, just a few magazines printed that, so it's not really true in so-called hoax. But somebody did print it, and it is the thing. And after that, there was many, you can look up many examples of so-called hoax on YouTube, and they'll give you a lot of different how it happens over and over and over, and that has to do with the commensability of language, how we talk, and two people can be talking and using the same word and using the same paragraphs and using the same language, and that has a lot to do with feminism and the sciences, using the same languages. But we're both talking about different things, and that's people. People sometimes talk about. We used to do this thing at the lunch table. There was this two girls that sit right above us, and it was me and Mike, and Mike looked over to me one day, and he says, "Joe, look at them." And I says, yeah. And he says, are you listening? And I says, yeah, I'm kind of listening. And he goes, listen to what they're saying. They're both talking about two different things, and they're talking at each other, and they're talking about two different things. And it's just bizarre. Well, that's commensability. That's Kuhn talks about that. Two people have different ideas about something, about the same thing. And that's what happens in the gender dynamics areas of what we're in, where MGTOWs are in. And let me check back. I'm on the wrong screen. We MGTOWs are in the gender dynamics area, which is considered a science now. Gender dynamics and sociology and all that stuff. So we introduce scientific philosophy to that. But when you introduce feminist scientific philosophy, they do it from a more critical stance. And you will notice this with all women. Women don't know how to argue in a sophist way. They don't know how to give an argument that will that doesn't infuriate you, or they know how to be very critical. And that's what they mistake for an argument. Women can be critical, like we watch here in YouTube. You got the argument between the group that just came in, and they're just kind of fresh little baby MGTOWs, and they don't really know a lot about what MGTOW is and everything, and they're just baby MGTOWs, and then they're like, oh, they got the Jerry Lee. I was like, I could say bad words about girls and stuff like that, and that's so exciting, and that's okay for the new MGTOWs and everything. They learn how to say the cunt word, the C word, So with female critique of the sciences, what happened, and you'll notice with Thunderbolt Thunderfoot, he kind of gets around this stuff. And his argument to a lot of these things, especially with AI, it was AI, and then you had to have a feminine critique, and then you had the dongle incident. I don't know if you guys remember the dongle incident, where the guy was talking about a dongle, and they said, well, you're talking about your man parts. And I'll try to keep it. Not that I'm going to get monetized. I had one thing monetized last week. It was me riding the bike, and then the next one, me riding the bike, they unmonetized it because I put MGTOW in it. I think that's so funny. That's sexual discrimination, by the way. MGTOW, men going their own way. And I wanted to talk about that a little today too, about how YouTube sexually discriminates against. And I was thinking about writing I looked at it this week, and I did the research into writing a complaint, because I'm monetized on YouTube, but what I am as an employee. And you can't sexually discriminate against men going their own way, because that's a gender, and we're a group. So you are breaking two laws. And I can pull it up. I can't pull it up on here. I can't put a screenshot up on these things. I could put it up on there if I ever figure out how to do it. Whoa, come back. Oh, there we go. I had to pull the world back into focus because I'm God. But I'm going off subject and everything. And I hate to go off subject. I'll jabber on for hours about this sort of stuff. Freeze frame. Yeah, there we go. We're back in focus. This new camera bothered me. They got a better picture, but it goes out of focus a lot and it pixelates. So So this message is held for review. Okay, yeah, you got to watch your language. I'll show it there because it's Joey, my buddy Joey. Hello, Joey. Let's say hello to MGTOW Warrior and Victor Von Frankenstein and Joey and all my friends that come around to listen to me jabber on. Sometimes it's a late night. Oh, did I? I didn't do this for you guys. I'll do my go your own way, MGTOWs. Go your own way. If you're going MGTOW, you got to go your own way, and that's it. You're all forgiven for all your past simp sins. I am Joe the monk. I am a Sedevacus monk, and I can forgive you for your sins. Your simp sins. I don't want to know about the rest of the sins, just your simp sins. I was going to talk about libertine at some point this week too. The ideas of libertine religialism and libertine writing and what we do here in MGTOW with our libertine. But today we're just going to talk about feminist epistemology and how they get it. They twist it and they get it wrong. And if you know females, you know that they're very where I left off, I think, was with you can see it with Rose Blades and the other guys. They're talking about these. We're talking about MGTOW. We're talking about the philosophy of MGTOW, and she's very critical. She doesn't see that posing an argument in a conditional fashion that would argue with. She's just critical. She's very sharp, and I just laugh when I see it. She is very sharp. But that's all women. You probably notice that when you're arguing with your wife, we're not having a logical argument. She's just criticizing me, and sooner or later to get around to my small weenie and my lack of masculine strength. And that's where it always goes. But that's where it goes in science too. If you think about it like that. Men are very rational when we argue. We do the science of philosophy. Say, I'm looking up at the stars and I notice that is the sun wobbling? I'm looking into the universe. I have a mathematic measurement to say, is the sun wobble a little when the larger planets pull it off slightly? And we're talking about space here. We're talking about things that move freely in space. We're going 490,000 miles across the universe at this way by spinning. What is it? 100,000 miles an hour, and then while traveling around the sun at 47,000 miles an hour. So we're doing a lot of things there, and I'm doing it while holding on. Woo! That's science. So if we're having this argument about the axes of our universe and everything, and I have this mathematical thing that when you bring women into the conversation with that, often they'll be critical about, like I said, with the guy that landed the satellite on the asteroid. Instead of arguing or giving him applause for that magnificent feat of manliness that he did, he landed a freaking satellite on an asteroid. Woo! That guy should be in front of but they said he had a sexist shirt on with a girl, and it was a Hawaiian shirt, and it had a female on the front posing kind of scantily. And that's what they were arguing about. That was the feminist critique of science. And that was a critical critique rather than saying, was your mathematics correct? Did you land? How did you get there? How can this influence what we do as people? Now, there's not a lot of practical, but this week in science, we see that NASA now can land on a asteroid, and they know where there's this one asteroid that is a gold asteroid, so they can manipulate the trajectory of the asteroid, or they can take pieces of the asteroid that's worth billions and billions of dollars if it's not radioactive gold, and somehow mine this asteroid. That's what we're looking at in NASA this week, if you've read the Google articles. So his contribution to landing on that asteroid, how can we further these things? Now, that was what Thunderfoot Thunderfoot, I think his name is. He's a scientist, and he was arguing about, well, AI and the AI thing. What happened with AI is it got hijacked by hijacked by industry. This is when the philosophy of science really comes in. Uh, Google showed up and Yahoo showed up and Amazon showed up, but the scientists forgot to show up and talk about how this AI thing can influence the way we do things in the world, and how could AI help us? And we got Alexa, and we got machines like Hey Google, and I can talk to Google and stuff like that, which I use a lot when I don't want to get my ass off the couch. And it's great, but we forgot to look into furthering the science of the science, because the scientific philosophy broke down and arguments never happened about how they were going to use this. And then from 1989, I think it was, when it first came out, to now, it's stalled. And it's stalled to talking to computers and how we can practically use this in industry, rather than and those things have broad impacts on how we as people, how we men move this society forward. And we invent things, and the guy who invented that was very excited about the AI. But now it's 2016 and we have Alexa. That's not real exciting. uh, so we can see examples of how these you know other segments within the frame of scientific philosophy kind of interrupt the action that was the natural action of the science that should have been taking place. Now, feminist epistemology and feminists in these things, they want to be critical without having actual arguments of soffit arguments against. We're all supposed to give arguments against something. And even when you write a scientific paper, everybody knows that you're supposed to have two arguments against your hypothesis. And then you give your hypothesis and tell everybody how you're right. And that's how we figure out if things are right or things are wrong. But in what we noticed with a lot of women, there was a couple examples that they gave in books and everything. Women know how to be critical. They really do. If you've ever been married, we all know women know how to be critical, but being critical to a mathematical equation such as AI doesn't get you no good. You have to show how you can use it and show how you can further it with your critical. The only way you figure out if you're right is if you figure out you test it against being wrong. That's basically the science of philosophy in a nutshell. That's positive, positive logicalism, logical positivism, is testing everything you do. You test it by making up scenarios where you're wrong, and then measure those scenarios against your idea and see if your idea still holds water. And that's how they do it in the scientific communities. But if someone comes in and says, I don't think Bob's a great scientist because he has a big nose, and that's what the females do. It has nothing to do with Bob's big brain or whether Bob has or whether it has to do with Bob's ideas. If Bob's math is right, math is science. If Bob's calculations were right, if Bob's chemical equations, if Bob's biology was right, if Bob was able to cure cancer, it doesn't matter if Bob's a dweeb. But females, they have this thing that they do with being critical rather than being analytical, and that's why most males are the reasonable male. Let me boop. I got to do this. Take care of the show. show. Google is hello, MGTOW Smurf. Hello, everybody. Hello, Victor. Hello, Joey, and everybody that showed up today. I know it's kind of late on a Sunday night. I was having a blast today, and I was riding my bike around, thinking and looking at all the. I like to look at the foliage. It drives my buddy nuts every time we stop somewhere. I'm looking at I'm looking at how the foliage is hanging. I'm looking at everything. I'm taking mental notes and the growth in the plants and everything. And I'm a rock hound. I like to collect rocks and look at them. I like to look at them under the microscope. I like to determine what they are and everything. So I'm picking up rocks and in my shirt. And I'm like, hey, I got to get these rocks and them plants over there. I have to go clip a few because they look really. I want to find out what they are. And that's just me. If you ever been out, you never been out with me. That's what I do. I ride around on my bike all day, and I stop and say certain areas, and I look at everything, and I take a look like Darwin. I go up to every plant, and I'm like, ooh, what is that? I'm a geek. I know. But I love to do that, especially with rocks. If I find a stream where the mud's all gone and the rocks are at the bottom, I'm taking a bunch of them. I'm taking a whole can full. Now the park ranger, he's always looking at me like, you didn't take anything from the park, did you? Because it's his park. It's not my park. The natural resources of the park is his park. Now that's my argument. It was park rangers. It's your park, huh? Isn't it the people's park and it's my rocks? But it's his to protect. Bob has a big penis, so he must be the best at everything. No, that's an interest. Yeah, if you were thinking about that in the feminist way, Bob has a big. He's handsome, and so his science must be right. No, it doesn't work that way. But if he was so, and that's what Sokol was saying. Sokol was saying. Just because somebody says everything or looks the part, I look like a philosopher. Just because someone says something or looks the part, it doesn't make their science correct. You can have the most handsome guy in the world. You can put what's that cat from the zombie movies? I can't remember his name. He just made a new movie. It don't really matter. I mean, he's a good-looking guy. Or Matthew McConaughey. I always joke about that with Matthew McConaughey. You can put Matthew McConaughey in a white lab coat and give him glasses and put him in there, and it doesn't make him any scientifically smarter. But all the girls will be happy to have him around, and they'll be like, "He's just swellest. He's just so swell. He's just so smart. Look at him. He has a white lab coat." Now that's the philosophy of science. Them are the things that they argue out. The white lab coat doesn't mean anything. Bob's the mathematical genius, and that's what makes him a scientist. Not his white lab coat or his good looks or his lack of peace eyes or his lack of, or he may have a huge one. It doesn't make him a better scientist. So when they looked at that, they found that women are critical. Men do what we call sophist arguments. Sophist arguments are we make up excuses why we're wrong, and then we put them up against the idea. We come to our hypothesis by putting it up against our idea, and we weigh it up against each other, and we do this a lot against any idea that we have. That could be an idea of building a bridge, or if this bridge, how did we find out? Well, there was a lot of bridges that didn't make it before that. So we have a lot of bad ideas for bridge, and we're using a good idea for a bridge. How do we know that? Because we made mistakes, and this bridge works. We've seen a good example of that. The Florida Walkway Bridge was built by a female team of Go Girl. They were special Go Girl, architecturists or whatever they are, architectural engineers, which were going to build that, and then it fell over. And they were like, there was a lot of excuses why it fell over, but I'm sure somewhere we got a walk bridge right up here at the end of the street, goes over the highway. so I don't have to ride my bike. I still ride my bike across it because it's one of those highways that are the rural highways that we have intersection streets. It's really weird, but I can still ride my bike over it because I never had to I have to put my bike on my back, climb up about 100 stairs in 2 sections, walk it over, and then climb back down so I can go across. No, I'm just going to ride across that son of a bitch. Call me what you want, but I'm going across that real fast. But that bridge works, so why didn't the one in Florida work? There's a lot of science that goes in it. And what the idea when we look at so-called hoax was about, just because they say all the right things, just because they look the part, and we have to have jobs that are inclusive of females. It's the same thing as Bob's small small appendage. Just because she looks the part, she may not have the brains to be doing that. She doesn't have the that's what the women want to bust through the glass ceiling, but busting through the glass ceiling still means you need to do your job, which I think that lady at Yahoo found out. She found out the science of business, and business is a science, and how to run a business. What was her name? Oh God, the Yahoo lady that destroyed Yahoo. She got rid of she thought that the SMF chips and getting on telephones. She destroyed all the talk pages, the forums, and she thought, well, I'll be on telephone soon, and she destroyed it. Alyssa Myers was her name. Now that's a great example of putting someone in a position that they really have no idea how to do, and they were supposed to have more of a scientific knowledge of. There should be some measurement of her. She came over from Google, by the way, too, and Alyssa Myers destroyed Google. And then she called, her excuse at the end was the Wiener excuse. She said there's a lot of pedophiles hanging around she pulled out the Me Too pedophile thing to cover her ass after she had made all those mistakes, and I thought that was just horrible, Alyssa Myers. Nobody talks about it anymore, and Yahoo is still not worth. I think their stock went down to like $49 a share. Maybe it's at $27 a share. It was close to Google too at one time, and she destroyed it. Inclusive, yeah, we're supposed to be all inclusive of everybody, no matter what their actual capabilities are. And Godfrey's argument with scientific philosophy is women were never held out of philosophy. Women were never held out of the sciences. They just never entered the sciences. Now, if you can come and you enter, we have a way we do it in here. And we argue these things out, but we don't do critical argument as if I said they do it. You're not critical of Bob. Be critical of his idea and show how the idea can work or not work, or what's wrong with the idea. Not Bob personally, but that's what we've seen with the guy that landed the satellite. Come back. I'm losing the earth again. The guy that landed the satellite on the asteroid, their critique, the feminist critique in the sciences, was that his shirt was misogynistic. He landed a freaking satellite on an asteroid. You missed that part? That's not important? I think it's important. That was so funny. I was laughing. But even Thunderfoot, which is a scientist, and I consider myself somewhat a scientist, being an electrician, kind of cross over the things I do. And we use certain words. We stay in the framework of our science. And I was arguing with this dude a while back. I can't remember if you remember. And he came in, and he was applying Einstein's relativity to social sciences. And it's all relative. No, it's not all relative. There's two different things. That was Godfrey's argument. These idiots come in and they want to apply Einstein's relativity to social sciences, and it doesn't work. Although it is an idea that some things are relative in space and time, they're really not relative in scientific arguments. You have to be exact. So that's what we get when we lose the terminology of these things. And that's what the argument started with Kuhn and Popper and come back. There we go. Oh, was I? Okay, I almost lost my background. When my background goes, that's when I have to leave. I did put my background up. I don't like that background. It's kind of a shitty background. but since we were talking about science, I put that up. And feminist epistemology and the sciences. And there's a lot of things that happen. There's actually a good book out, and I push it all the time. It's the Theory of Reality, and it's Godfrey's Theory of Reality, and it's a great book if you want to get into explanations of scientific philosophy and all that stuff. It doesn't mean anything to life, I suppose, unless you're a mechanic or a man that's building something great. I'm building a ray gun in my garage. Hope to have it done and distribute it to all MGTOW so we can take over the world and put everything back to normal. But I'm going to, I swear to God. So we're all scientists. I mean, you put a man in a garage with nuts and bolts and a welder, and he's a scientist. He's going to build something. I swear to God, he's going to be taking every little part down that he has, and he's going to be taking everything apart, and he's going to be building something weird. I do it myself. Today I was really busy in the garage. I was working on my moped. I want to sell my moped, so I can't figure out why I'm not getting a spark. But it clicked today that my magnetos. I bought the whole ignition system, a new ignition system, and I was so mad that I didn't get a spark after I bought the ignition system. But I didn't replace the magnetos, the magnetic pickups. On the other side, not the coil side, the magnetic coil pickup. And I was like, "God, you idiot!" But that's what we go through when we're fixing things. I don't know why it's not running. It's not telling me. The moped doesn't talk to me. Dougie can't tell me. He was being a little dick too. He was wandering around in the backyard looking for the rabbit. He's a blind deaf dog, and he was looking for a rabbit. I was just staring at him for a while, and he was sniffing away, bumping into shit, and Dougie was just bumping in and looking for that rabbit he was smelling, because I know there's one out there. There's actually a hawk out there too. I was kind of making sure the hawk didn't attack Dougie, but but he was looking steadily for the blind deaf dog. You can take the dog out of the world and take his eyes and his ears away, but you can't take that nose away, and he's still going to look for rabbits. That's little Dougie. He's just still intently he committed to getting that rabbit before he dies. Had to block you. Sorry. It was okay. No, that. Let me fix that. I'm trying to keep up with the the new system of having Google or YouTube monitor my chat and me. They monitor me too, and that was the second argument I was looking at this week, and how we're discriminated. MGTOW is actually, if you look under workplace sexism and workplace discrimination, MGTOW falls under all those categories, and it's because it's men going their own way. There is plural is there, and men, a group. It indicates in its actual form that men going their own way is a group or an organization, because it's multiple people. It's there and men. It's not a man going his own way. It's men, plural, going their own way. And so when we get discriminated against being men, being a gender, and that's part of sexual discrimination. We are men, we are a gender, and we are part of a group. When you look at the what classifies as discrimination, workplace discrimination, we nail it. We nail it. So I get monetized. I try to get monetized. I don't get monetized. That's a job. I work for YouTube making videos like this, and they put ads, and I get paid a little. They get paid a lot. I'm an employee. Essentially, I'm an employee of YouTube. So when they discriminate on two bases of gender and sex and a couple other ones that I can think of, they're actually breaking the law, and they're actually violating the same practices that they argue about, that they want to see if I was a female or a transgender lesbian. If they discriminated against, I'm sure there'd be a lawsuit, but they're allowed to discriminate against men and MGTOW, a group and organization. So if you look up that, and I was thinking about filing a claim. I really was. I had my finger on the button. I filled out all the information, gave them a description of what was happening, and saying I'm being discriminated because I'm a man, gender, and I'm in this group, Men Going Their Own Way, which is a gender group of we work in gender dynamics, and we're being discriminated on YouTube because they won't monetize our. And I'm a workplace employee there, and I want to sue for $40 million. I almost did it. I almost had to. I just thought that would steer them up a little bit. But it's true. We fall under every category of gender discrimination by not being monetized, because I've been doing this thing. When I do my bike, the other day I put my Ann Shear bike, I put it up, but I didn't put MGTOW in the description. So right away I got monetized. And then the next one I did on the bike, and I was just riding around, and we went to the waterfall. If you guys watched it, probably didn't watch it and everything. And I didn't get monetized, and I seen that I got a little bit censored there. And I was like, oh, I was monetized, and I didn't get no hits, and they didn't put it out there. So they're gender discriminating against the group men is a gender, men is a gender, whether they think or not, going their own way, an organization. There and men indicate an organization. So we fall under every category of that, but whether I go and file the lawsuit, I'd have to have millions of dollars, and I don't have millions of dollars. I'm sorry. I'm a broke ass, what the black girls say, I'm a broke ass enter. and because I've been off work all summer because of my poor knee. And but I'm enjoying it at least. And so I can't sue him because I got no money, which is another form of social justice going wrong. And I was trying to figure out the argument of what would Rawls say about justice in politics, or justice in politics, I suppose it would be, in our court system, when somebody can't sue because the original position or something like that from Rawls and Rawls, I call it Rawls. I had a buddy named Rawls. I called him Rawls, and he hated it. But how would Rawls argue out that? He would argue it from the original. Imagine yourself as being on the bottom of society. What if you could not get? And I am on the bottom of society. I'm just a poor working ass guy, and with basically not working right now. So I'm at the bottom of society. And so what would Rawls argue? That Rawls would say, well, you did. First of all, I say that YouTube is being gender discriminatory towards me, and I should sue him for $40 billion. I just love that. And because that's what that one girl got. She got $40 billion from that company or something. $40 million, I think it was. And I think Google owes me $40 million that I don't have enough money to sue them. So what would Rawls say about our legal system and what was fair and what is not fair if we argue it out from the original position? I think, and he would say, no, this system of justice that we have, where poor people can get no justice, or at least people. I'm not poor, but I have money to live on. But people that I can't afford to give $10,000 to a lawyer, so I cannot get no justice against YouTube that is discriminating against us. And that's social justice, and that's what Rawls was saying. So I know we went a long way around these scientific philosophies. Rawls was a part of the original scientific philosophy movement, and Rawls and Kuhn and all those guys. And it's very interesting. There's a few good books about it. You can read Rawls' Social Justice and find out about these things. And you can read, the Theory of Reality by Godfrey, and he'll tell you a lot. It takes a long time. It'll take me about a year to get through those two books. But it's good fun and philosophy. And you always have a different outlook on the world when you start reading these things and looking at what feminist philosophy is really about. What is feminism really about? Why do they want to be in the sciences where they can't act right? It's always about someone's shirt. It's always about someone's personal behavior. And I know you have to be, in those circles, you have to be pretty stoic. And that's one thing that they don't have. They don't have stoicism. You have to argue your points correctly, and you have to argue your points rationally. But it's always about feelings. Let's get these feelings. I'm having feelings about Bob's shirt and his small penis. That's not an argument. The guy landed a freaking satellite on an asteroid. Don't you think that's a little more important? There's things that are a little more important. Let's keep to the point. And that was Kuhn would say, staying in the frame. You got to stay in your framework and not jump around, and things aren't as intersectional and feely as you think they are. So basically, I just came around today to say hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, Joey. Hello, Victor. Hello, all my friends in MGTOW. MGTOW, the thing that saved my life, that gave me hope in life again. MGTOW. Oops, let me do it the right way. I keep forgetting that this is inverted. Go your own way, MGTOWs. Go your own way. And I hope you are all going your own way, and I hope you are enjoying life. This is a blast today. I had a blast today. First, I rode up to the baseball diamonds, and then I was watching the softball. The guys play softball, and they're really serious about that. There's a lot of serious people in these softball leagues, and then there's a big park. It goes around, and I was looking at all the things in the park. And then I came back down to this park, and then I went up to my friend's house, and then I stole some cones. I didn't steal them. I had some cones. I had these road cones. I took over to him, and I put them, and I ripped apart the back of my bike so I can put a thing on it, something to carry shit in. I noticed I went to the store the other day, and I put one of those floppy coolers, the cloth ones on there. And then I got to the store and I started putting things in, and it was flopping over and things were dropping out. So I was like, well, that was an asinine idea, Joe. So I had to cut them off today, cut that off, and then put something a little more sturdy. I bought a little basket. It's so cute. You should see it. It says drive on it. Oh, I was riding home today, and this when a cop in an SUV went by me. And he stopped and he looked and he wanted to give me a ticket. I was just looking, and I said, hey, I am. I was like, hey. And I drove by him, and he looked and he stopped and he was thinking, he almost started turning. And then he was like, there's nothing I can give him a ticket for. That was zipping around the neighborhood, just like, fuck you, Bob. And saying hello to everybody. And that's what I'm doing here today. I'm just stopping by to say hello to all my friends in MGTOW, and hope you're all doing well and having a great summer. It was a great summer day. It was 74 and sunny. Does it get better than 74 and sunny today? Upwards to 89 or 79 and sunny. We had a long string. We had a long bunch of like nice cool days that was sunny and 76, 79, 74. And it don't get better than that. You got to get outside when those days happen, especially in Ohio where it's cold. It's going to get cold here soon. And people are going to start talking about Halloween. And that's when the happiness or the human condition kind of dips. You say, oh man, I don't want to be around here for another year in Ohio where it's cold. But fishing picks up, so the salmon will be coming up the river, and I can look forward to those long days out on the pier trying to catch some burbot. Winter burbot is the best. I love burbot. Um, but but that's what we got to look forward to, and that's my life. So I mean, I'm stuck here until I get out of here. I want to get on my bike, put a tent on my bike, and just see how far I can get west. Somewhere it's warm and the air smells better, uh, or south. South would be nice. I want to go kill alligators with my rock hammer. Uh, but them are dreams. But them are good dreams. MGTOW's, we should still keep focusing on your dreams. What do you want to do? Is some people have normal dreams of, a good job. The Simps always have them abnormal dreams of the perfect Nawalt. And she's standing at the doorway every day with a fresh, hot bakery item. And she's like, I'm so glad to see you. You're home. You're home from work and you make everything special, and that's what they're looking for, that special Nawalt. She looks like June Cleaver, and just absolutely the June Cleaver second, the second one, the 1998 one, I think it was. She was stellar looking. Not the June Cleaver, the first was in black and white and she was kind of plain, but she was the Nawalt dream, and that doesn't happen. That's what the Simps dream about. I'm melting here now. Wiki, hello, the Wiki Lives Matter. Hello, MGTOW values and everything. I was thinking about something that happened on your show yesterday with 2 days ago, I think it was. And there was someone spouting off, and then they left, and there was some deleted stuff. And then I went and looked at the videos, and then there was some other stuff that was going on, some crazy MGTOW stuff. MGTOW has been all crazy with drama lately. Everybody's going after the Nawalt girl. What's her name? Rosemarie. And I just sit back and laugh, and I think it's funny. We're supposed to be solving the world's problems here in MGTOW, ending the gender dynamics problem, getting everything back to normal. I don't know what traditionalism, moving from this modern world to the postmodern world that we have to live in, and trying to figure out how to get along. And we got feminism, and they're making it hard because all they know how to do is be critical of your it's never big enough, whether you think it is or not. It's never going to be for them, and your masculinity will surround that, and that's what they want. You just and go to work and bring the money home. And nowadays they want you to go to work and then just donate half your funds to Health and Human Services under child support, and about 75%, you can live on 25-year pay of the government, and she gets the rest. It's not a good deal. My friend was over today. He was dealing with that today, and it's sad. And when he's a young man, and I try to help when I can, but he's dealing with all that. And I tell him, man, at a certain time, you're just going to have to tell him to stop, because they're actually breaking the law and hurting you, and they'll take all they can. when they can take it, they will take all they can, and there's a certain time when you just have to say stop. No, I can't take this no more. You're going to have to stop. And that's was my rage out moment, where where I entered MGTOW and said, no, I'm not taking this no more. I'm not a slave. And that's what I told them. I'm not a slave. And it's anti-constitutional to put me in jail for debtor's prison, and I'm not a slave. Them are two constitutional rights I have, and they argued with me about that. They don't believe in a constitution here. They want to argue against it. Well, women have a constitution, men don't have a constitution. Uh, we have slavery and debtor's prison, and we have protector and provider status where we can give up our lives for in combat. That's our purpose in life. We're disposable that way. No, I want more of that in life. And I think all you guys want more to your life too. So we covered a lot today. We covered feminism, scientific philosophy. We're covering all the bases. This is a MGTOW. I'm going to cover all the bases today. And there it goes. I love that when it flashes. It's like, bam. That's the universe exploding. But basically, I just wanted to come around and say hello to all my MGTOW brothers. What was the other argument that I had today? It was, I think we covered it. I think we covered it with how females look at. It was actually one of the guys did a video on he was a Sedevacus monk like me. I'm a Sedevacus monk, and it was there was arguments with his holiness. He got excommunicated, and but there was other things that were going on in that, and I can't remember what the argument was now, but I think when we look in those things, we can look at Sedevacantism, and we find out where the roots of Dvorak started, where the roots of traditionalism failed, and everybody wanted to do their own religion, and now we got all kinds of religions out here, and some of them. And we're still holding on to that old traditionalism where we're going to get married and she's not going to be responsible and she's just going to be fat and happy in the kitchen. And that's not going to happen. And that's a big lie. But that's what the traditionalists will tell us, that's still a plausible idea. Well, most of us know that's not a plausible idea in our culture, in the postmodern culture of the West. It's not a plausible idea. And then they accuse us, oh, you guys just want to make the women wear head stuff and just kind of make them in the kitchen. And no, I don't want to make them be anything they don't want to be. I just want to be left alone to be what I want to be. I don't want to be a slave. I really hate being a slave. It's one of the things I would die not to be. It's one of the things I'd fight for in life, which goes to gun rights and all that stuff. And when an unjust society, what do we do as men when so many of our constitutional rights are trampled over, and in an unjust society? Even Rawls and Thomas Jefferson himself said when the government is unjust, you have to fix the government by force. And Rawls said when science and the political sciences and when they're wrong, you just can't let them get away with that. You have to tell them where they're wrong at. But it's so simple to see. It's in a very constitutional, no debtor's prison. You can't put men in jail for owing child support. It's debtor's prison. We have a right not to go to jail for that. It's not like England in the 1600s where they put you in stocks and beat you with whips and threw apples at you to shame you into doing something they wanted you to do. I mean, that time's over. The Whigs. That was what the Whigs were about. They're these special people that. But that's what we're getting now, and the judges think they're just going to trample over our constitutional rights not to be a slave. And that's the biggest argument. I don't want to be a slave. Anytime you give your money anytime you work for no money, they take your money and they give it to somebody else, which a divorced male is going to find out that's going to happen. 70%, if he got children, 70% of his money go to other people. That's slavery. That's the very definition of slavery. I love how they posed that in the end of, I think it was the middle, Minnesota. I think it's the Minnesota Constitution. Each state has a different constitution, by the way. And the Minnesota Constitution says there'd be no slavery in the state, and they give the definition of slavery, which pretty much says that working for no money and somebody else making your money or giving the money to somebody else is slavery. And he said in exceptions, it says except in the case of child support. So there's an exception to the Constitution. If you're a man and you're paying child support, you're allowed to be put in debtor's prison and slavery. No, man, these are shooting. That's when it goes from the first to the second amendment adjustments we need to make with our with our idiots that run this, that have really, they've gone way too far. The legal systems in our country have gone way too far, and they think that they're them wigs now. They have them big white wigs, and they're thinking, you'll do what we say or we'll put you in stocks and beat you and shame you. No, I'm not a slave. I will fight for that one. I wish we can get other men to have the same kind of passion that I have, that we can start a militia, the MGTOW militia. That's why I want to invent the ray gun. You have to be a wrist handheld ray gun with the thing on it, go down the upper arm, and then you can just, laser. It would give us a technical superiority if we can get MGTOW ray guns, and we wouldn't have to worry about tanks. We just cut them in half. It's something to think about, guys. Rare earth metals, we need them. Oh, yeah. So that sign, I think some MGTOW someday it'll be like Tesla, and he's gonna invent the ultimate weapon, so MGTOW can just end all the bullshit and all the arguments with one bout of force. But until then, we're just stuck with all the stupid people running our country now. And it seems like the stupider you are, the more successful you're going to be. Yes, it was So I'm about done rambling. I've been rambling for quite a bit now. There's some taxes going to people who I approve that MGTOW. Threat taxes are going to people who then slag you and slag you. Yeah. Yeah, taxes are a real problem. House taxes. I always thought house taxes are feudal taxes, and that's for kings to impose feudal taxes on you then you can work. And I always thought when I hear it comes out when I hear the argument. We sit in South Park and we hear it all the time. We want our gerbs, and what you're asking for is 20 to 30% of all societies have working class people that are slaves. And when you're saying we want our jobs, you're saying I'm the best slave. No, you want to find some kind of employment that pays you where you're not a slave. That's what we want. But I hear a lot of people like, we want our jobs, and the first thing that goes through my mind is like, you want to be a slave? You want to be that 20 to 30% working class that has no technical skills you're picking? No, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be the slave. And no matter how they pose it, their jobs now, their industry, and no matter how you pose it in every society that's ever been, 20 to 30% of the people have to farm and have to pick the crops and have to put things in the trucks. And then today we have the little dollies and wheel them up, work in warehouses and steel mills and to make the stuff so we can get the food to the grocery store. But the girls that's why my argument has always been about they look at how the things got on the shelves and they think magic fairies did that at night. No, that was on the backs of us men. Basically the slaves. How do they get the 20 to 30% slaves? Well, through divorce and that stuff. And then, you are a legitimate slave, then I don't want to be a slave. And it's one of the things that I'll argue against. And we can automate everything. That's fine with me. And when we go back to the argument in the 80s about AI and automation, uh, it was important that we kept up with that argument to move science forward on these things, so we don't have to have people picking apples in the fields, and we can just hit the button on the tractor and it goes out by itself and fertilizes the fields and plows it. And all you need is a little, hopefully, we'll make them electric someday, hopefully, or some kind of biodiesel, or some low sulfur biodiesel or something. So we can, or corn alcohol, corn alcohol is a big market now. We will see how big corn alcohol is when in September, when the markets start failing, because the farmers didn't plant this year because they're all a bunch of idiots. Uh, I don't want to go into that, but yeah, we're gonna have fun this stock market season in September. Yeah, that's gonna be a real roller coaster ride. But corn, yeah. So automation's great if we could have just stuck with the AI so we can automate this stuff instead of having. The problem was Google stepped in, and Amazon stepped in, and they wanted to make Alexa, and you can now talk to your Google your Google account through your microphone, and the AI will tell you. It's like, Google, find me a space map. That's what I did before, and Google found me a space map. So that's AI in a sense, but we never drove it forward into the things that really matter in life. Uh, and that's where Rawls' social justice comes in. The Imagine yourself on the bottom. That's what he was saying. Imagine yourself in that position where you were a picker, or a farmer. Wouldn't you want better things? I mean, women got washing machines. They complained, and we made them washing machines. That's what we do as men. We drive society forward, but we're stalled here. I mean, I was looking at what's his name, Dennis Prager, his smug ass. He hates MGTOWs too, because we're not all going to go out and get married. Dennis Prager, what an idiot. He says we're living in the golden ages, and yeah, he got everything he wants from traditionalism, but have we really cured any of the problems? I mean, the has we reduced that 20 to 30% slaves? We still need men to be slaves. How are we going to get them? Well, we're going to get them through eliminating people from education. We're going to get just eliminating people by color, and we're going to get them by divorce, where men have to go to work every day for no money, and then they have to get two jobs. There's there's a lot of things designed in this, and designed into this society that really don't work. Dennis Prager, he's an ass. I hate Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager, though, taking the moral high road after 4 divorces and telling us how great it is, just like, really, that is so milk apple. That is so absurd for him to tell us how great marriage is after his 4th divorce. I think he's on his 4th wife. You're a hypocrite. These Christian hypocrites. Christian hypocrisy bothers me too. I was having an argument yesterday. We were going to go see Ernest Ainsley. He's actually in Cleveland. I don't know if you guys know who Ernest Ainsley is. And my buddy was saying, we'll go down there and we'll ask him to heal your knee, Joe. And we got into the argument of religiosism, and that's where libertine comes in. The MGTOW libertine. I was going to talk about this someday coming up. Libertine being like the Marquis de Sade. Libertine, sort of, there's from one end of the bar to the next. Religious. When you put away all religion, you take a libertine attitude, and I am a libertine person. I'm a liberal. I put away all all traditionalism, and I put away all that stuff and call me, even if you look up the word, it's so racist. Though you look up the word libertine if you can, and it'll be like he's a Don Juan, or they make it sort of pejorative, like just not thinking in the Christian box is a bad thing, and they'll probably someday they're gonna, if they can, they'll add MGTOW to that and saying these MGTOWs, they just want to be free. They don't want to sacrifice for their country. No, I don't want to be a slave, ass. So we have this MGTOW libertine attitude, but we take this to some extent. I mean, the Dolly Diddlers, they take a sexual libertine like the Marquis de Sade, and then there's religious libertine people like me, where I'm a sedevacantist. I don't think that the right person's, there's an empty chair. God forgot. That's what I believe. There's an empty chair. God forgot to come down and sit in his chair. So he leaves it up to me to do. And then he complains when I fill the chair. Or at least all of his disciples complain when I be God. And Camus would say, we can be God in several different ways. Metaphysically, we can do it in the rebel, most of the time in the rebel, and wars are just men being God. And well, if God would have showed up, we wouldn't have to have all these wars, and he can instruct us. And I'll take that instruction as soon as he fucking shows up. So that's the argument. Oh man. So we were talking about religion. I was going to go down. I just want to do that. I want to go down and see Ernest Angley and the Crystal Palace, and they got a Crystal Palace buffet. And this is just going to be such a treat for me because my buddy knows how I am, and it's like I'll just be laughing and snickering and like, look at all these jackasses. But it'll be fun. So that's what I mean. He's such a trollish little person, Ernest Ainsley. He's like Jimmy, Jimmy Baker and Tammy Baker. She was such an ugly person, wasn't she? I mean, she's supposed to be this Christian, this angelical Christian, and she was such an ugly person. And Jimmy Baker, such an ugly person too. Even the new one he got, Tammy, is it? Not Tammy. I can't remember her name, but she's just a duplicate copy of Tammy in a younger fashion. And he married her before what another hypocrite. He was like Dennis Prager, these Christian hypocrites. He was married before he even left prison to another woman. I mean, that's because God sits at the end of your bed and he wants you to like hit that hard. He's God in a cheerleader outfit, and he's like, woo, Joe, good job. You hit that hard. Make more white babies. God. We live in an absurd planet. We just live in an absurd. Christianity is the epitome of absurdity. And there's got to be a better God out there. That's the way I figure it. That's why I'm sedevacantist. There's got to be a better one. Can't we have a really good God? I mean, can't we just have a really good one, a really great one? He's like got big muscles and shit, and he's just giving out free beer and shit, and he wants nobody to work. He wants everybody to be at the park. Show up at the park every day. It's always going to be sunny. There's free beer and fishing. That would be my God. Yeah, Dennis Prager. He's probably got a large collection. I would say Dennis Prager was. What a hypocrite that guy is on his force move. He doesn't want people talking about that because that's his own personal decision. And God in him. Isn't it funny how God always agrees with him? I just thought, yeah, your God always agrees with you. It's just great that he does. That means you're the smartest guy in the world, I suppose. Religion and hypocrisy go hand in hand. And basically traditionalism does. Maybe at one time that worked. maybe at one time we needed family units like that. And in the caveman day, we didn't have family units. We were half monkey, had fur, like lots of this. Probably looked the same way, I suppose. And I mean, you'd just be walking through the woods and with your big club, and you just see one of them, you'd be like, boom, and then leave. Yeah, I think they would call that rape now, but that's the way it happened back then. And you'd leave, and then she would set up a shop in a cave and have that baby in a community. That's where sexual cryptis comes in. She wants the community. Every person in the community, every male in the community thinks that they're the father then, because she's spread herself out pretty thin. That's what feminism about. Feminism is just fulfilling the act of sexual cryptis, because they spread themselves out and they want all the men. That's what Health and Human Services are for, by the way. So the men pay for their babies in group, the group of men, because nobody knows who the baby belongs to, actually. I think that's a more perfect system, but who knows? Who knows how it's going to go? You can't fight biology. That's what they say. I don't know if that's true, but traditionalism is fighting biology. And that's why we have the postmodernistic arguments now. Postmodernism is not the devil. It's just back to biology. It's like, hey, what can we do about it? We can find a better way. Men just have to start doing MGTOW and just, hey, I'm not a father. And that's why I say none of us are fathers. That's just something they made up. They made it up and put a tag on it so you feel good, like we're having a baby. All masculinity died the first day the first man said we're having a baby. We're not having a baby, she is, and I'm supposed to leave. That's true. That's biology. Now, with all that argument with the primates and everything, primatology and women being better at primatology, says Godfrey Smith. Godfrey Smith says women are better at primatology, and Jane Goodall was pretty good at that job, you got to admit. You think the first thing that comes up in primatology is the sexual habits of the gorillas and stuff like that. You figure they would know this stuff. But they'll argue against sexual cryptis then, which comes from the bonobo apes in primatology. So even in that kind of segment, women fail, even in the things that they say they're good at. And the philosophy of science, primatology would be the best example. Well, as soon as they hear something that lights them up, they want to be critical. They want to criticize. They don't want to say, hey, maybe there's reasons why the female of our species, our human species, does what she does. And that's biology. But they did take me down. They took down one of my, they wouldn't let me podcast once because I was trying to explain biology to them. And I said, no, you can't say that because that's a truth. So feminist epistemology and biology even fails, doesn't it? And I mean, biology is not, there's certain biology characteristics about men that if I argued against them, we have fuzzy faces and we're pretty big and we're sometimes there are men that have such low IQ it astonishes me. It's like yeah, I mean, arguing these facts is you're arguing against nature. You're arguing against natural. So why is it that the women they don't want to talk about sexual cryptis? They don't want to talk about bacterias and how they influence your thinking and how it's parasitical, and men fall in love and they think that love is something real, that got this magic connection across the universe to their special other. No, yes, it's just chemicals going off in your brains because of the bacteria that you put in your body because you touched her with your mouth. Jesus. And it's simple biology. I mean, but we're not allowed to talk about it. So, what have feminists? What have feminists done in scientific philosophy? Denial, denialism. There's a lot of denialism. Some people deny that there was a Holocaust, but it's just simple. We have flat earthers too. So feminism falls in the category of flat Earth and Holocaust deniers. Really, when you think about it, it's just funny. You're just denying the biology facts until they come full into what Sexual Cryptid says about our society and why we have health and human services and why we should probably have man-free zones where we just take care of the women. Men lose this thing where we think that we're going to be all traditional and because traditionality is just an argument against biology. I mean, she's not going to ever love you, and she's always going to be looking for the next alpha, and she wants all the men in the society to boom to take care of her. That's health and human services. That's welfare. That's part of natural female biology. I try to explain that to somebody. They don't like it. I mean, arguing against those things is ridiculous. Uh, but they'll argue against it themselves. And it's like, we can all get on a better page, on the next page in the postmodernism train here, if we all started telling the truth. But truth is subjective nowadays. Subjective to what? Subjective to your emotions? Yeah, honestly, that's what it is. Your feelings? Yeah, I don't like certain things about being a man. I mean, but it's just the truth. I can lift 300 pounds and maybe I'm pretty good at chopping lumber. I don't want to chop lumber, but I'll be good at it. Uh, you know, hey, that's just the facts. Uh, we work for a living and we take care of things. We build buildings. That's what we do. We like it. And it's masculinity, get used to it. But that was my rant for today. Scientific philosophy of females and how they screw with it. They want to argue, but they don't want to add. But that's normal. Women are critical. Even in every relationship that you ever had in your life, when was she not critical of you? That's what they do. Be critical and complain. I wish there was that in the mall. I mean, she's just going to have that apple pie. She's going to be like, Joe, I cooked this for you today. And then she got her little sexy black dress on with a apron. And I live in the best house in the neighborhood with the picket fence. Pipe dream, buddy. It doesn't work that way. But that's what traditionalism tells us. That's every religialistic minister is going to tell you it's highly havable. All you got to do is get out there and sacrifice. What a lie that is. I sacrificed a long time and then they took everything from me. They took my business, and they took my kids, they took every cent. I even had no investment money to start a new business. It's like, Jesus. They took my credit. They wanted to take my freedom. I told them, no, I'm not a slave. I mean, that's what you want? No, traditionalism sucks. Traditionalism sucks, and we're supposed to move into a postmodern world here. That's all I got to say today. I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea. I bought this delightful tea from Darje. It's really good. It's a black tea and a curl. It's a curled black tea. Uh, it's really delicious. It's from India. My son was over. He was like, "This is delicious," and I said, "Yeah, I know." I'm gonna go make some. Indian tea is my favorite. I don't know what your favorite tea is, but I'm gonna have a cup of tea, and I'm gonna see if Doug wants to go out. He's been a real humdinger this weekend. I'm letting him wander, and because he's old and he needs a little freedom, and the things he gets himself into, Jesus. But that's Doug, and so I got a lot done this weekend. I fixed my lawnmower too. I didn't tell you I fixed my lawnmower. I wanted to tell you guys something. Those EO3 spark plugs, the ones that are supposed to save gas, and the EO320s, they replaced the RWC 12s, the regular spark plug in a lawnmower. Don't buy them. I had two failed ones, and they both failed on the negative side, and it's hard to detect. You're searching everything. You're like, well, why am I getting a spark? And it's on the negative side. They fail, and they put a little something in there where it fails, and a capacitor to the negative, and that fails, and it blows out the negative side, and it's really hard to detect those EO3 ER3 spark plugs. Throw them things out there, junk. Go buy yourself an RC12, an RCY12, and put that in your lawnmower, and that'll last forever. It'll probably outlast your Magneto. And that's what I fixed the lawnmower this weekend. I had to do that again, and I found out about the difference in scam spark plugs. So I got the front grass cut too. You see my rosy complexion from cutting the front grass. it was like this high. It was like, I thought that the building inspector was going to come and yell at me and give me a ticket for having my grass too long. We'd be fighting on that lawn. I'd be like, I'm not taking a ticket. I'm not your slave. I'm not paying you because my grass is long. That's one of my biggest arguments against community. Everybody's got to have perfect grass. What a scam that is. Building codes are pretty much a scam. But that's just my opinion. Elect me mayor and I'll get rid of that stuff. But I'd lay off half the city too. So go find real jobs, and then I'll start the steel mill up there again. So you have real jobs. But they can't figure that out either because they're a bunch of asses, and a lot of scams out there. City government scams. You shouldn't have a city government. You should have like a mayor, and that's it, and the guys that pick up garbage and lay cement. That's it. That's all you should have. The rest of those people can go home. We have too many police officers and too many fire engine people. And fire, by the way, fire should be taken care of. Your fire insurance should take care of the fire for your house, should take care of the firemen. The United States citizens shouldn't be paying for that because it's private industry. Privatize that. Because you are paying insurance on your house for that very thing. You should have a tag on the front of your house that says, I have fire insurance. You can put it out, and then they pay them. But another scam that we have to pay for, that's social welfare. It's industrialized welfare. They don't have to pay their part, but so we pay it. That's if we want to talk about welfare, we got to get rid of this corporate welfare out of our system. But that's another argument I'm sure I'll lose because they'll say we're not, because we like it, because we're making money. Not that it's fair. Fairness doesn't matter. That's what Rawls would argue. Fairness, right does matter. And right matters in MGTOW. And that's what we're saying. Do the right thing and it matters. We're going to change the world someday, I hope. And I'm going to get going here. If I can figure out, I forgot. And like always, thanks for coming around, and thanks for supporting me, and thanks for being my friends, and thanks for saving my life, MGTOW. That's why I continue coming around. And most of all, thanks for being MGTOW. MGTOW.